In this video, I want to show you how to look after your beloved motorcycle. This video is for guys and girls, young or older than young, riders with little or no experience, and bikers who already believe, well, they know it all. Owning and driving a motorcycle means that you will inevitably have to give your motorcycle some love and attention. And the earlier and more attention it gets, the better. Because without attention, it will inevitably suffer and will soon start to look like an old motorcycle, or one that has not been cared for. Besides that, it might start to look shabby, or even worse, end up being unsafe, and it could be costly. It's not only the frequency that matters, that your bike gets attention and care that it deserves. It is more importantly how you apply this attention. And there are many simple things which you can do to increase the quality of your work, and most importantly, considerably increase the quality of the result. So in this video, I want to show you the basic and proper way to keep your motorcycle clean. Simple? No. There are many factors which you need to understand in order to get a good result without damaging the bike, for instance. I'll be showing you the ways and means of polishing and waxing the bike. This is a little bit more complicated because the bike has many different components, each being sort of different materials, and so each material will need a different strategy, maybe even the correct and proper cleaning product. This then needs to be correctly applied. An engine cleaner will do a great job of removing oil and grit from your engine if applied properly. If used on your chain, for example, to remove lubricant or grit, it'll do that too. Don't get me wrong. So why buy a chain cleaner? The reason is actually simple. Engine cleaner will ruin the chain, and a chain will need replacing. What about just using diesel to clean the chain? Will this work or damage the chain? Does the chain need to be cleaned before a new coat of chain lubricant or grease? Is more lube better than less? Are you interested? I'll explain in detail in part 2. And then finally part 3, which is probably the most important part. If your bike should not only look fantastic, but also ride fantastic, whilst at the same time being safe to ride. How can you maintain the bike, which will include the importance of checking and inspecting the individual parts for wear and tear? And how can you safely do the maintenance yourself? In this video, we'll be looking at brake and clutch adjustment and maintenance, oil change, forks and shocks, and even tires. Not only will you be riding a smarter bike, it'll also be safer and, as I said already, more fun to ride. The best part of it all, and I know this is important, probably important to you too, you will have saved lots and lots of money, so why effectively don't you do it yourself? I want to give you the knowledge that I have from years of experience that will hopefully give you the confidence to do these things. So if you're interested in keeping your bike for a longer period of time, or maybe forever, and you want it to stay as nice and as safe as the day you bought it, well, you should watch my videos, because who wants expensive, unnecessary repairs because of the neglect, or let's say failing to do what you have to do when you own a motorcycle? Anyhow, don't despair. I am going to help you get fantastic results. Motorcycles today are quite easy to maintain, but only if you do it correctly. I want to show you and share my many years of experience with you, so as to make the job of a regular maintenance and care look easy, quick, and fun to do. In general, motorcycles are actually great to work on. Why? Because nearly everything is easy to access. You don't need a lot of tools or expensive equipment, and you don't even need a lot of room. In fact, most jobs can be done from the roadsides or the curb. You might think that you already know it all, or you know how to do it all. But do you really? Are you using the right tools for the job? Are you using the correct products? Do you really need a pallet full of expensive products that the multi-million, billion, trillion market offers? All this may sound too easy, and the way you already do it might be already adequate. But is it? I think you'd be very surprised. Even a simple wash of a motorcycle requires practice and, more importantly, some type of knowledge. So let's get going on the wash, and I hope you enjoy the video. So first of all, I'd like to show you the products that I use. This is the shampoo I use, and it's actually just a regular auto shampoo, which is a car shampoo. I buy it in bulk because I do wash a lot of bikes. Now, it can be applied with a sprayer, one of these things here. So you put in a bit of this, spray it on the bike, let it work in, and then wash the bike down. What I like to do is I use 3 buckets. Here are the buckets that I use, and I have them filled with warm water. This bucket here is a special bucket, and it has this sort of a tray in it. So what this does is it lets the dirt go through the tray and it remains down the bottom. So what you're trying to do there is you're trying to keep clean water without any sand getting onto your rag or onto your sponge or whatever you might use. So this goes in here into the water, and I have already prepared 200 milliliters of my shampoo, which goes into this one here. And I do look to see if there's anything going in there other than the shampoo, and there's not, so it's nice and clean. So the second bucket is a rinsing bucket. Now this is primarily just to rinse out my rag. So what I do is when I'm washing the bike, I'll rinse out the rag and then apply the product again with cleanly rinsed out rag. The third bucket that I use to put in my brushes, my rags, my sponges and that sort of thing, because I'll be quickly wanting to be changing them, and usually they end up somewhere on the ground, which is not the place to have it, because there are stones on the ground and they get collected in the rag and they scratch your bike. So to start off, before I wash the bike, I will spray the dirty parts with a gel. And I'll leave that sort of for 10, maybe 20 minutes. You can leave it on for a half an hour if you wish to, but my bikes are not generally so dirty. Now I like to use a gel because it'll stick to the dirt and it'll work its way in there slowly. Now if you use anything else, it just runs down the bike and it doesn't work. So a little shake on this. Right, let's apply the gel. I'll just let you have a look at the bottle. There you go. And if you can see in here, you can see a lot of sort of grime and dirt. So I'm just going to spray in there. I have a lot of dirt on the engine too. So let's get it in those little nooks and crannies. And on the stand. So then I do a little bit on the brakes. And while I'm back here, I will spray the wheels. So let's get in to see what my shock looks like. Well, that looks dirty too. And in fact, most of the bike is dirty. What's filthy is the engine and the under tray here. Let's try and get in there. So I'm not going to spray everything because I use a good shampoo as well. So front brakes, left hand side, and brakes right hand side, and I'll just get a little bit into the wheel here and get the front wheel coated too. So I saw the engine was fairly dirty, so and the flies there too. So let's just leave that soak in there. I'm not going to do the whole bike in this because there's no reason to. Okay, get it in there and get it in here and a little bit on the stand. Concentrating on doing the video and decide to break it on there. So as you can see, I just did the fiddly parts and the parts that are a little bit hard to get at. So what have I used? I've used about a quarter of that bottle, and that bottle was about €6 or €7. It's not expensive. ProCycle make good products. Now I'm not getting paid by ProCycle and I'm not promoting any products here. I'm just basically telling you what I like to use, and from experience I have actually used most products. You can also buy a foamer for your power cleaner. There is this stuff here, and this is a spray which you can just spray on. It's from S100. Clean without water. It removes insects and it doesn't scratch the bike. This is a sort of a dry clean. It might be okay if you are going to just give it a quick wipe down or something like that and the bike is only minor dusty. I don't like to spray anything onto the bike and rub it in, because inevitably you're going to be getting grit and grime and little stones and pieces of sand, and that is going to ruin your paint if you're going to rub that in any way or form. They give you all these fancy little cloths to go with it. I don't know. So while we're waiting for that gel to do its business, let's have a look at the bike. I've taken off the bag. I'm going to take off the tank bag. I'm going to take off my navigation. I'm going to close up the sockets and make sure they are waterproof. So let's take off the tank bag. Then we're going to take off the navigation. So what I have here now is I have a little plastic bag prepared, and this just goes over the nav to keep the contacts dry. So there's actually no need to worry about the switches on modern bikes, because these switches here, they've rubber seals in behind them, so no water can get in there. So this is a contact point here for my charger for the lithium battery, so the cap is on it. That's good. Just one more little look around before I spray water on it. So I actually like to use a power cleaner, and there's a few things that you have to watch when you're using a power cleaner. If you're going to be using a power cleaner, well then try to not put it up too powerful in any place where there might be bearings, which are wheels and so on. It's not really fantastic for brakes either, because there's little lubricants maybe behind the pads to stop them squeaking, and that has to stay on. So I don't like to use full pressure on the bike because of bearings and because of the brakes, and there's little places where there are grease, like the foot pegs and that sort of thing. So you don't want to strip that away of all the grease. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn down the pressure, and that gives me a softer spray. So can you see the distance I'm doing this from? I'm not going too close. Here's one thing I forgot. That's not a must if you're not going to spray the water directly into your exhaust, but water gets in there and the exhaust will rust from the inside out, so I try to keep water out of there. Now it's usually better to actually wash the bike in the shade, because it dries off far too fast. Now it's not too hot today, so it's okay. Be careful when you're doing your radiator if it doesn't have a cover on it, because you can actually damage it with the spray hose here. What sort of a rag do you use? This is the one I like to use. People like to use these here. This is the sponge. You will have difficulty going around corners. You know, the sponge is fairly hard and you won't be able to clean around the corners. This thing here, however, will clean everywhere you put it, and it's really excellent for cleaning the bike. I like to use these. Second reason I don't like using sponges is because they collect little bits of sand and they go into the sponge, and actually that'll remain in there, and every time you sort of clean your bike, you're sort of sandpapering it at the same time. So I don't like using sponges at all, so get rid of that. So there are little helpy lines. This thing here is good for doing your wheels. If you have inaccessible areas, you can use a brush. If something is hard to get off, you can use a harder brush. And if there's any dirt that doesn't want to come off, you can just respray it, which I am going to actually do now because I saw a bit of dirt there that didn't come off with the power washer. So folks, one thing you definitely do never want to use on a motorcycle or on any vehicle whatsoever, and that is these here. These are the Scotch. They will scrape your bike, and I've seen people using these. I was actually at a show and there was a fella cleaning a brand new motorcycle with one of these. I couldn't believe it. If you're going to wash your bike, use one of these that I use. You can also use one of these mitts, and these are brilliant. Girls might like them because you know, they're nice on your hands. I have a softer one again and another sort of a harder one, but never use one of these. What I like to do is I like to start at the top and at the front and make my way down and towards the back. Shake out the towel that you're using before you use it, just in case there's any stones in it. So, nicely sudded up.
Lots of suds.
Lots of suds, and it'll glide over the paint. And don't forget, just keep on putting in fresh water on it. Water doesn't cost too much. We've enough product here to do 50 bikes, so I like to put it into the product a lot. And I'll wash it out in clear water, get rid of all the stones and grit, and give it another blast of the product. So if anyone tries to wash your bike, the alarm will go off. I will let you know that somebody's washing your bike. These are really well sealed, so you don't really need to worry about them. Getting into areas that you can't really see, but I know there's dirt down there. So, as I said, always start from the top and let the product run down the bike and do its thing. So for more difficult areas, I use a brush. Especially down at the stand here. And for underneath the motorcycle. And some of the engine parts. So let's get a bit of water on the bike. So I'm going to put a little bit more gel onto the wheels, and then I'm going to work it in. Don't forget about the tire. Now underneath the mudguard. So with these cloths you can actually get into all sorts of nooks and crannies. Now you can't do this with a sponge. So your sponge will not get into these places. So folks, I did the front wheel as well. You didn't see that because my camera cooked up on me here. Got too hot and turned off. So I rinsed the bike down. So guys, I got a good sweat up there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry the bike down. But a lot of people use a bike dryer. I don't have one. I don't really need one because I have a compressor. I used compressed air and a pistol to just pressurize the air. I don't get too close to the bike. I don't aim directly into the switches or into any electrical areas. I just give it a good blast from a bit, say, let's say 10 centimeters away, and that does the trick. So if you don't have a bike dryer or you don't have a compressor, well, that's okay, just go for a ride. Rub down the screen with my very, very softy sponge, and that's all that needs. Then I get a very nice expensive cloth and I lightly just dry that off. And lads, that's it for the TFT. There's no more need to be done. How uncomplicated is that? Don't use any additives on it, don't use shampoos, and don't spray anything onto it. Same thing I use for the screen. And just rub it down. I always give it a little bit of a shake just in case there's any grit or stones in there. That's actually my secret for the screen because I never have any swirl marks in it. Everyone else does, but I don't. So next thing is I'm just going to dry it off with a cloth. This is a beautiful, thick, it soaks up a lot of water, and I will just rub down the bike completely with that. Right, and now for the manual work. Right, that's the first half. So folks, I have the bike just washed now. That was fairly basic. The couple of things that you have to just watch are getting the power jet into any bearings or anything like that. Cover up anything electrical you can. If you have a navigation system or a TFT, well, it's good to just put a plastic bag over it and an elastic band. It helps. Also the exhaust, a little bit of a plastic bag at the end of it. You can also push something into it, but the hose on mine are rectangular, so there's two of them. Haven't found anything yet that I could just plug into that. Second thing I don't like about that idea is I probably forget to take out the plugs and drive off with the plugs in, but I mean, you'll hear. I'm just going to show you the water. You won't believe this. Here's the bucket. If you have all your stuff ready, close to the door, close to where the bike will be, and you just basically just have to take out the power washer, plug it in and hose it up, and you've got all your stuff where it's supposed to be, put it somewhere close to the garage door or close to the exit. So you just have to grab it, move it outside and then put it back in again. Instead of trying to get it all together every time you go and wash the bike. It makes things a lot easier. So folks, the two things that I always do when I'm finished with the bike is I put on a bit of ACF 50, and I always buy it in a spray. I just put it on a bit of a cloth and rub it around wherever I can find. Any plastic parts, any metal parts, doesn't matter. ACF can go everywhere except on your tires and on your brakes and on your brake discs. Don't go near any of that area. If you're going to spray it around, well then put some sort of a plastic bag a large plastic bag, the entire wheel at best. If you don't cover up the entire wheel, you will get some drop of ACF50 because it sort of smokes out of this. Then after that, multi-grease. I'll show you the little parts that I grease up always, just to keep them nice and healthy. Do you see the shine? ACF50 is just fantastic. So what you do is you put this rag into a plastic bag with the can, and the next time you'll have a sort of a saturated cloth. What I actually like about ACF50 is that it doesn't thicken up on you. It disappears after a while, but it doesn't leave a honey gunk on the paintwork or on the plastics. That was bad. I got a little bit onto the peg there. So we have one slippy peg. The pillion. Anything you touch with ACF50 looks nicer. So not only does it look nice, it's going to be protected. So that's basically it. I think that's a huge improvement. So the last thing I do now is I do the seat, and this is a special seat cleaner. It's from S100. That is Dr. Wack again, and you can get it in England, I think, and you can get it in Germany, and it's brilliant gear. I like these S products. It doesn't leave your seat slippy when you're finished, and it looks like new. Now the best way to do this would be actually to take your seat off. I was going to do that, but I can see a couple of clouds and I don't want to have the bike outside. So I want to get into the garage as soon as possible, or else all this cleaning will have been in vain. Now how nice is that? So check out the bike. I think she looks really well. So folks, it's supposed to rain, so I'm just going to give this a little bit of oil. I'll let you know where. And I'll just pop a little bit here. So at some stage you take them out and you grease them properly. We're done. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Oh, part 2 is polishing. I'll be doing partly by hand and partly with the machine, so that you can either choose whether you want to do it with the machine or by hand. Part 3 is more intensive.